You know what I love about Star Wars Celebration?
So we made it to the hole.
All the same products.
Gotta find a spot. This place is packed already. So now we'll be ready.
The Force is not a power you have. It's not about what you lost. It's the energy between all things, the tension, the balance that binds the universe together.
Okay. What is it?
Close your eyes. Breathe. Now, reach out.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it.
Wait for the show!
I'm so happy this day is finally here.
There's a lot of Ahsoka love today. Buckle up.
How are we feeling right now?
It's gonna be amazing.
Great start to the series.
Rosario is so compelling. She is on fire and she knows her stuff. She's in it.
There she is. There's our queen. She looks great. Oh my god, young Ahsoka.
This is blowing my mind.
Oh, yes.
This episode, it's so good. I don't even know what to say. I don't want to blink. Oh my god.
Let's go, Ahsoka. Wow.
Long live the Empire.
That was so dope.
Rosario thought she killed it. She's perfect.
Best Star Wars we've ever seen.
進行役の作者さんをお迎えしましょう。
Welcome to the celebration stage! Are you having fun? Sorry, is there nobody in this room? Are you having fun? Okay, I want to hear a little bit from the Japanese fans. Nihon no fan皆さん元気ですか? Japanese fans, okay, and fans from overseas! Japanese fans! Great, so this afternoon we are going to take a look back at the first season of the live action series, Ahsoka! And I'm so excited to tell you that we have the expert joining us for this conversation. Please welcome creator, writer, and showrunner, Dave Filoni! Rosario! Tokyo, please take a seat. Great atmosphere, isn't it?
Incredible.
Incredible, right? So before we speak about the series of Ahsoka, I'd like to talk about the character of Ahsoka because I think she is one of the most compelling heroes in the Star Wars saga. Do you agree with that? So many of us have followed her since her debut in the incredible animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and we watched her grow up, right? So Dave, I understand you were very inspired by Miyazaki's work when creating Ahsoka. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Comfort Animation, that was the first medium I did, and one of my favorite animated films is Princess Mononoke. And to honor that great film, one of the reasons why Ahsoka has 2 wolf fangs on her cheeks is because San and Mononoke did. So you'll catch little things like that throughout. Obviously, I worked for years to get Ahsoka to ride a wolf. And finally, I got to riding one, which is kind of it's selfish, I know, but I can't help it. I just love that image, and please, I'm going to plug, he doesn't need it, but if you haven't seen Princess Mononoke, please watch it. It's just phenomenal. Support Chinese animation, there's nothing like it. It's inspired. You've seen Visions, our wonderful animated series. There's so many great creatives in the world, and they're doing a wonderful job. And keeps all of us inspired as well, so thanks to them.
Glad to have you here in Japan.
Yeah, I love it here. I love it here.
Great. And John, you and Dave have been working together for almost a decade, in the live action only. So, how did you and Dave start talking about bringing Ahsoka to live action?
Well, after the first season of Mandalorian, we were figuring out what to do for the next storyline, the next timeline stretch. And we thought there would be an opportunity to start introducing other characters that have been established in other media. And the idea that Dave could start bringing to the live action screen characters that he's been knowing well over the course of, at the point it was already a decade, with George. And of course, first and foremost, his favorite character, Ahsoka. And the notion was, let's do an episode where we feature her, find the right person, find the right aesthetic, and Dave directed and wrote that episode. And it sort of served as a de facto pilot for us to see if this was something that could work. And if anybody of you have seen the episode The Jedi in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, you saw Dave bring that together.
Such a good episode.
And it's much different finding casting somebody in live action, and so the idea of figuring out who would be the perfect choice, and we arrived at Rosario, and there was a phone call, probably a strange, cryptic message to call us, and then Dave did the talking. But I think even the campaign for her to be in it started even before that.
It came to my attention because you were involved online on social media, and Tracy Kenobi brought your name to me, and I was like, oh yeah, she would be good at Ahsoka. I thought, and then it was years though before I actually did make it happen. When I told John, when I said, well, I'd like to have Ahsoka be in Mando, he said, well, who do you think would play it? I said, well, I think Rosario Dawson wants to do it, and you were like, no, Rosario. And I said, well, then let's talk to her. And then we did. And then here you are. And now you're Ahsoka.
Rosario, you remember the moment?
Yes, I do. Very, very well. As a matter of fact, it was on Skype, I think, or something we were on. And I remember going, okay, this is for real. They're really talking to me. And there was art that you were showing me that you had drawn of Ahsoka, who I love and had seen, grow and develop over years, that now looked like me. You had drawn my face into her, and she was wearing something different and new than we had seen her before. And I remember being so grateful the Wi-Fi was really bad, because we had to take the screen off in order for the phone call to go through, because then I just was like, muting myself and jumping up and down and freaking out in my house, and just couldn't believe, that this could be real. That this post that I had done saying Ahsoka lives. Not only does she live, but she lives in a timeline where it makes sense for me to represent this next adventure with her.
I see the
That was perhaps one of the most surreal moments for me working with you on the show when George showed up the day you were directing the fight.
Yeah, he always comes by to see how I'm doing, and that's no pressure whatsoever.
I just remember you breaking the internet with the picture, the blurry picture you posted of him holding Grogu, and knowing I was cut out. I was like right to the side, right there, and it was just a secret. Just witnessing, yeah, it was amazing.
Funny on that shot of all of us, we're in the volume, but it looks like we're outside, which is kind of cool. And that's the day that we were shooting you fighting Diana Lee and Santo on that walkway. We had one day to shoot that fight, and George showed up, and I was like, I have one day to shoot this fight. Everybody came down the stage because George was there, because we wouldn't. And George got debated, all the stuff was happening and time was just slipping away.
And George would remind you of that fact.
He did remind me of that. He said, I need to get more setups done before lunch. And I said, I sure do. I wonder why. But I love when he comes. I really appreciate it. Obviously, he's been such a big part of everything I've done with Star Wars. He's the reason I'm in Star Wars at all. And you know, to have him mentor and to show up on those days is always very special.
Yeah.
And I carry that with me, and I pass it on to the crew, as John knows, and we try to live by what he taught and follow through. It is a challenge, because I don't know if you know this, George is really good at making Star Wars. Hard bar.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing this wonderful moment with us. So, Rosario, like Dave mentioned, you know, your first appearance was Mandalorian, and then with the Boba Fett. Tell us how it's like playing this character across an entire season and driving your own show.
Oh my goodness. You know, it was so interesting because I remember when we had that first conversation about the character, it was very much about, let's see if this could work. You know, like this is a very particular type of character to see actually actualized. And to see what the fan response could be, to see what the physical kind of getting into her could be, to see if it could make sense to transform it. And there was zero promise. It was like, this is the episode, and we can all reconfer afterwards and see how it goes. It could be another guest spot. It could be maybe jumping on another show. It could be your own show, or none of those things whatsoever. It could just be this one-off. And so we treated it as that. And I remember just giving our all. I mean, you know, when you have the picture with little Grogu as well of the moonlight, that was also the exact same room that we got. Everything in the volume. Like, it was so, I remember just being so moved and talking to everyone in the crew and taking it all in, because everyone who was there had watched some VHS tape make of Star Wars when they were a kid, and were just pinching themselves if they were there. And I felt the exact same way. And it was just like, if this never happens again, I am so grateful, A, that this character gets to live on, and that we get to see this adventure in this moment, and how brilliant it was with little Grogu, and this continuation of Yoga's species. Like, it was just so magnificent on so many levels. But to see the fan reaction that allowed us to continue to tell this story has just been an absolute dream come true.
I think one of the complications that people might not think about is that one of the biggest debates we had was, could we even get Ahsoka on screen effectively on a day-to-day basis? Because we have to paint you orange, there are these head tails, how are they going to flex, how are they going to move? You know, the first time we did the contact lenses, there's no simple element to it, and you have to always be there first, and you're always going to usually be there last. And so credit to you for putting up with all of that and being the most positive person on set.
I'm always a big, and anyone who's done cosplay of Ahsoka knows how much I credit them, because I know it is not easy, and I have an entire team that helps me to do it every day, and the dedication and love that you show this character, showing up in that orange is just so magnificent to me, and the level of detail that you bring to it just blows my mind every time, and it's what I think about when we're sitting in that chair every day getting ready to make some Star Wars!
Because together, Dave and John, you produced 6 series, 6 seasons across 4 different series. Does your creative process change based on the series, or you know?
I think it does. we've really given these shows room to be influenced by the creative forces behind any given episode, whether it's the writers or directors. And certainly there was a sense that Dave was really supporting what we were coming up with to bring Mandalorian to the screen and to do anything on the small screen. But when we started to move into the Ahsoka episodes and the episodes that dealt with characters that he had established, like Bo-Katan, and then of course with the show, with Ahsoka, then the creative center of gravity shifted into a continuation in many ways of what Dave and even George had done in animation, because so many people felt connected with what was there. So it was merging the two while maintaining consistency with what we did in live action, but also culminating all of the storylines, the relationships, the characters that had been established over years and that many people grew up with. And there I was trying to support as much as I could what that fruition was.
How's it for you, Dave?
Yeah, that's an elegant way of saying it. It's also like John has some toys and I have some toys. And I'm like, no, you can't play with that toy. But you can borrow that one. And you're like, sure, maybe. You're always more generous than I am. He always gives me trouble. Because I'm like, no, Ahsoka's not there, John. She's over here. And I put her back in this box.
You could have one lightsaber sometime.
But we negotiate. You got the dark saber.
Then I see your show and there's like lightsabers all over the place. A little brother who doesn't get to play with a lightsaber.
Well, John, it takes training, discipline, ways the force. You're a Mandalorian, and that's a little bit dicey.
I got an Ugnaught. What else?
You got an Ugnaught. That was cool, right? Yeah, that was fun.
You got me the little toys that they don't want to play with anymore.
The peg warmers, John. Those are great. Lots of people love those. That's fine. I can Thrawn. We can mention Thrawn in your show.
But the truth is, we really get to play together the whole time, and it's the collaboration that has been, for me, the special part of us bringing where we both came from, our different backgrounds, our different creative process. I've learned to envision things, visualize them beforehand. The creative process in animation, specifically the animation under George's collaboration, is very thoughtful, technical, creative, and you do a lot of the thinking and planning ahead of time. Where I come from, and Rosario also, our background, we started off kind of an independent film around the same time, and there it was much more freewheeling about casting, about finding moments. And bringing those two together, I think, is what gives the personality of what you've seen. And since over those many years, I've learned from Dave, Dave's learned from me, and now we both think the same way, and we've kind of come to a common understanding of how to tell stories.
Right. That leads me to the next question. So, with Ahsoka, she has so much legacy in the Star Wars universe. What is your hope for how audiences will connect with her?
Yeah, I think the energy, I think it's the power of the character. First and foremost, you're a warrior, but also not this time you're a mentor. And also trying to show the struggles that one can have in that role. But yeah, there's no one thing. I try to design every show so that you don't actually have to have seen anything else. I think that what travels with me is the knowledge people have that I've been at Lucasfilm 20 years.
Right.
And so they think you have to see all of this stuff. But if you watch the first season of Ahsoka, it's no different than when you popped into New Hope and Obi-Wan's mentioning a Clone War, and he's mentioning an Anakin Skywalker, and he's mentioning all these things, and I didn't know what that was, and I said, Dad, this is episode 4, why'd you bring me? I want to see episode 1. And it was 1977, he says, there is no episode 1. I'm like, Dad. Of course there is. So, you know, it's a way of telling the story that just, you come in the middle of it,
right,
like an old serial, but now, this is going to sound like a plug of this. Thanks to Disney Plus, okay, you can catch up on everything. You like Andor? Go watch Rogue One. It's going to flow. The force will flow through you. Yeah. Episode to episode, movie to movie, back to episodes. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So talking about Ahsoka, no one has had more influence on Ahsoka than her Jedi Master, Anakin Skywalker. Yeah. this scene where Ahsoka and Anakin face off is such a powerful depiction of the layers of their relationship. Let's take a look. Season 1, everybody bring it. Anakin and Ahsoka together in live action. Thank you so much for bringing that to live action. What was it like bringing that to life?
It was doing it, I thought, was just brilliant. Getting to explore the world between worlds and have Anakin sort of, take Ahsoka down the yellow brick road of her memories during the Clone Wars. I just thought it was really exciting. I remember the first time reading the script and texting you and just being like, man, this is amazing. And I thought,
Rosario, how was it for you?
It's so incredible. I mean, you were just saying earlier about you making this so that even if folks did not know the history of these characters in the animation, they could feel what moment you were in now. And I remember as well reading it and yes, getting to do the world between worlds and getting to work with you, but also seeing you with Ariana and young Ahsoka. I remember just how brilliant that was because, you see her in the animation, and for a lot of people, when they first saw her, she's a young, spunky teenager. It's different in an animation than seeing this young, person in the midst of war at such a young age. And it just gives you such a scope for this character. It made me think of the Mandalorian episode and why she was so reticent to be a mentor to Grogu. Like you could see, it gave so much resonance to that moment with when I got to meet Mark Hamill, which was so cool. And really what this journey has been with this character. And I loved being able to see you be able to be there and show this other side to this character that I think we get to see in the animation, but is not something people have necessarily felt. And it was just really beautiful, really beautiful. So cool. It's also cool.
Hey, how was Ariana as young Ahsoka?
It's awesome. I mean, that's a hard one. It's just like that. It's weird. I mean, obviously, I've lived with this character for a long time, and I collaborated with Ashley Eckstein on it. I've drawn that character at that point almost every day for years and years, and had such control over the expressions, the action, the pose, everything. And first with Rosario and with Ariana, I'm letting go of so much of that control. And that, as an animator, that can be frightening. But then I remember the first line you read, I was watching, I'm like, okay, so that'll be good. And I just let go of it. It was like a very Jedi thing. I just let go of that. I wasn't worried. And with Ariana, that was one of the most surreal moments when she appeared in the head tails and came up to me, and I'm looking at her, she's like, what do you think? I'm like, wow, that's weird. It was like it was real.
Yeah.
And it was like it was something I just seen, and then it was real, and she just embodied it. And then she started imitating you all the time, on set, off set. I just watch you guys like that. And I just in the background of a lot of these, I'm like, it's weird. I don't know, like she was literally just sitting there with all the clones. I don't know what she was talking about. I took this picture, but she was talking, saying, go like this, and the clones look like that. She go like that, and the clones look over there, and I'm like, this is real. I question my reality. So I'm like, where is this? It's just happening. And they're clones and Ahsoka, and it was one of the best days because I never dreamed of doing live action until I worked with George. I didn't think it was something that was obtainable. But George changed that for me by the way he taught me, and he made it become something that was perhaps obtainable. All I had to do was be brave enough to try something different, something I'd never done, a medium that I didn't know, and break out of my regular thing. And that's when I always say, George, you say, dare to be great. You must seize the moment in front of you. Don't wait. Don't wait for a time. Don't think it's going to happen later. Make it happen now if it's something you want to do. And that's what I'd recommend to young people. When you say, what is Ahsoka about? Ahsoka is about hope. She's about training. She's about discipline. But she works hard to make all these things happen. That's what Jedi is. They give you positivity. They give you optimism. That's what they are in the galaxy. And that's what George gave to me. And hopefully that these shows can give to you. It sounds, you can do what you want to do, but you must focus and train. And the door will open for you if you work hard. So, there you go. And they all work hard and look where they've gone.
Watching these guys in live action was a really positive thing, but Hayden, was it fun for you to do that? To shoot the scenes?
It was too much fun. I just think it's a very compelling period in Anakin's life that we never really got to see in live action. I remember when we were going to do episode 3, having conversations with George Lucas about what Anakin was up to in between 2 and 3, and he was talking to me about the Clone Wars and how he was this great warrior and a leader, and I was like, that sounds really cool, George. And then just how well it was presented in the animated world, I was just really excited to get to do that in live action, and as much as I love the sort of traditional Jedi robes that we kind of exclusively wore during the prequels, it was nice to see Anakin with a new look,
I don't even remember. The first time we met was actually at a celebration. It was that one where John Williams appeared with an entire orchestra, because that's amazing. And we were standing off on the side. There's a picture of us. And that was the first time we were talking. And it was your first one, I think, in a while. And you were like, yeah, this would be interesting. I've been in one. And I said, no, man. These people love you. You wait and see. Because I'd seen it through the Clone Wars, from the work you had done, and all the Clone Wars, the prequel kids. And I just knew it. And from that moment, I was like, oh, I gotta figure out a way to work with you. Because everything I learned about Anakin from George, I wanted to apply. And so many years went by. And then finally I found a way. I had to invent entire dimensions to make it happen. And it was awesome. It was just seeing you in that armor, and it was like confirmation of what we've done, what Matt Lancher and I had worked on and watched. Always I was like, this will make sense if we did in live action. Star Wars starts there. And then there you were in the armor, and it was just exceptional. Plus, no one swings lightsaber like you, man. Holy shit.
You came strong here for the money, but yeah.
You came strong though. Once you spin that thing, it's like, uh-oh.
Remember after the first take, you were like, oh, so you're coming in heavy, huh?
Wow. Power play. Okay.
So, talking about the first season, the main themes was Ahsoka and Anakin's, masters and apprentices relationship. So Ahsoka straddles both worlds. How did you approach that dynamic?
You know, there were so many moments in Clone Wars that I remember with watching, you know, Ahsoka grapple with what leadership is, and how striking and how scary it was, and how much you would push her, you know, in those scenes where, you know, the people under her would die. She would make a choice that had really and terrible consequences, and the fears that that would bring out in her. And then watching her develop herself and develop that muscle under your tutelage. And, you know, I think it was something I was really struck by because, again, I did not know where this character was going in the live action. So when we were having these scenes interacting with Grogu and how reticent she was to take on the mentorship role with him, it made a lot of sense to me. I completely could get what her fear and her anxiety and her stress and her trauma was from that. And to continue to see it, you know, her kind of helping from afar, still being not able to not help, but still not willing to take on that role herself, you know, in Boba Fett. And it was just something that was such a wonderful surprise that I got to explore. And I remember Dave telling me that Sabine was going to be my Padawan. And it just was such a delicious graduation for her to see that she healed something in that past that allowed her to access this thing, because Ahsoka is so incredible and she has so much to offer and give, not just by herself standing there and taking on whatever consequence to her actions, but in passing on that knowledge, passing on in that tradition. And it's a beautiful tradition, you know, that has in succession with someone like an Anakin who thwarted all kinds of, you know, rules and regulations and pushed back on the status quo. You know, you got to see that, and people's first initial reactions to young Ahsoka was not liking that she was so spunky and, you know, that she had such tenacity and audacity, you know, like they wanted her to fall more in line. She did not follow that status quo. And so I thought it was so incredibly fitting to have a Mandalorian as my Padawan in Sabine, and seeing that same sort of tradition sort of live on, that I think really resonates with the generation now. That questions authority and questions that, you know, that moment where she leads the Jedi Order was such a profound one. But now is one I think that we get to explore in a different way, because that Jedi Order and Council is gone, but those teachings are still there, and how do you follow them and become your own leader? And I think it's really, really important to pass on that knowledge and to take on that positionality. And so I'm loving seeing Ahsoka take on that new challenge, because as expert and incredible as she is, it is a totally different journey to pass on. And I think, you know, it makes me look back on Clone Wars all the better, because it's just like, wow, she really gave you a hard time. But you did the same to Obi-Wan, so now it's her turn to try to take the high ground.
Right. So, Dave, Hayden, you already shared us the experience, you know, working with George Lucas on Star Wars. Have you carried those teachings once again with you? New stories. Start the day.
Well, I think that was one of the interesting things, is that you and I could talk very evenly about working with George and our experience, and you and I both, I think, have the same regard and respect for George, which is so important. And that bond, I think, allowed us to stay faithful to his vision for Anakin, you know, and that was something that was very important to both of us. When even considering putting you on screen as Anakin again, that's a big deal, because, you know, that is George's guy. That is the chosen one, the icon. And I was so grateful to have you there to make sure that we steered and stayed on the right path. And whatever I might have had a gap in knowledge, you had. And whatever you might not have known, I knew about those Clone Wars. And so I think that led us to create a really authentic interpretation of what he was up to. And yeah, I really looked forward to it the whole time. You know, I was in Clone Wars. I was like, it'd be neat to see Hayden do this. And then it was really neat to see you do that.
Yeah, for me as well. You know, I think people usually have to work together for a while before they sort of develop a bit of a shorthand. But for us, it was just kind of, you know, from the get-go, because we both went to the school of George Lucas. So, you know, I knew that you got it, and you knew that I got it.
Jackets.
And I knew that you got it way better than I got it.
I don't know that that's true, because you are
for longer than I did.
Better than you,
but it just made it really easy. But you know, I always still have George's voice in the back of my head, you know, sort of saying faster, more intense, and just trying to sort of, you know, continuing to work off of the principles that he taught me about the character. But to get to work with you, Dave, was just a real, you know, privilege.
Let's move on. At the end of the first season, Thrawn and Ezra have returned to the known galaxy, and Ahsoka, Sabine, Huyang, and Shin are stranded on Meridian. So, David Rosario, Ahsoka tells Sabine, Ezra is where he needs to be, and so are we. What does that mean?
It means we get season 2. You know, I could go into it, but why? You watch the show, you guys know what I mean.
Rosario, you want to add something?
We're about to go into it in about a week when we start filming.
Oh, wow! In a week!
Yes.
All right, before I go there, Dave, you shared a very interesting sketch on social media last year, right? That's teasing the Ahsoka and Sabine, maybe following Baylan's trail in season 2. This one. Anything more about this? A little bit more.
Yeah, so season 2, it was obviously a big challenge in many ways. Obviously, it's challenging technically, but this is the part today that's a challenge. But it was a particularly big challenge because of losing Ray. Who was just the greatest person and such a great spirit on the show. I knew Ray from, you know, working in voice acting with him, and I just always instantly connected with him and thought, when I make live action, I need this guy to portray a powerful Jedi Knight that I've had in mind. And he did not disappoint in any way. Ray was the most beautiful person on screen and off. He was wonderful to all of us. However big a loss you think it is, it's bigger. And it was a challenge for me to even consider continuing for a while. But I have a great support group with John and Rosario. And I found a way, and I had Ray in my head. And grateful for all the conversations with him about Baylan. So I understood what to do. It just took a while to get there. But I'm very confident now that Ray would be happy with the direction that we've chosen. Spoke to his family about it because they were so important to Ray every day that we were working. And so we've continued because the character was meant to be important. He's meant to be the parallel to Ahsoka in every way. If there's a light, there's a dark, and Baylan is representing a different journey for a Jedi that's lost his way as much as you represent one that's kind of walked away from the Order, so did he. And that parallel is something that must continue. And yeah, I just kept hearing Ray, and I followed that. And it led us to the idea of bringing someone else in to play the part. In essence, because Ray had performed it so iconically, there's a blueprint for what this character should be. And then I talked with John, and John and I decided that we just needed to find the right person that would not just understand the character, but also understand a bit of what Ray brought to it as well. It's something imperceptible, something just in the eyes, really, to be honest. And I think we both felt very fortunate that things pointed towards him. We met Rory McCann. And so Rory will be taking over the role of Baylan. Just so you guys know, and John knows too, speaking to Rory and spoke with Rosario, you know, he takes it very seriously. He takes it very to heart. Roy's a big man with a big heart, and he has such respect for Ray and what Ray brought to this that I know his whole focus is not letting Ray down and not letting you guys down, so he really feels it. So you'll love him, and we love him now, and I love what he's taking on. It's a big deal, so the Force is with him, and I know you guys will be too.
On. Season 1 was so imaginative, with witches and galaxies. What are you excited for the audience's experience in Season 2, John?
Well, I'm lucky because I get, to be part of it, but really my biggest part is being the first audience member. And I get to hear the ideas, I get to see the doodles. It really all starts with doodles. That picture you saw with George and a black-bearded Dave Filoni with him drawing there. You think he's taking notes, but he's drawing. He's constantly drawing. And that's how he starts, that's the creative process for him. It flows out of him, and then it becomes, and Dave's got so many talents and gifts and skills, it becomes a script then. And then it becomes a collaborative article. And he keeps, I think what's different that I'm most looking forward to is now he has the voices of this tremendous cast in his head in a way where it's transitioned now away from what it had been into what it is. And all these characters have found their voices. So, I mean, I could go on and on about the visuals, about the worlds, about the sets, about the ships, the fights, all the stuff people come to Star Wars for is all going to be, I'm so looking forward to how this comes to fruition as the first audience member. But really, Star Wars is about family, about people, about relationships. And so for me, as a partner in this process and as somebody who gets to be part of this family too, I'm really looking forward to how these relationships have developed and matured as the characters start to know each other and as they fulfill their arcs that Dave has laid out for them.
Wow. So Dave, we also have more to discuss in the Season 1 finale. What can we see in Season 2?
Well, yeah. We'll see. It's big. It's crazy. There are a lot of what you were seeing there, those little models are these miniature versions of sets that we're building. And so I'll give you some spoilers. The hangar is the hangar on Home 1. And so we reconstructed that. It's cool. I've got 2 full-scale X-Wings. I've got an A-Wing. I've got other wings I'm not going to tell you about. So that's really fun to walk around. These 2 sets, you don't even want to know about those. Those aren't, they're really interesting, but you didn't come here for that. So, yeah, we can go by that. I bring the Noti back. We got little old Notis, we got little tiny Notis, and they're in some peril, which is tough. Not everybody's happy about that, but Oh yeah, and this is good. We got. I really, it took all of my effort to resist writing the line. It's a trap. Because I'm like, I can't do that. That would be so lame. Because this guy can't always get to the trap. Like, you would think you would see it this time. You trap him again. But Neil Scanlon and I collaborated, and I said, Neil, we need an act bar that really, I want all the wiggles that the puppet had. I want the rubber finger when it wiggles things with the restaurant. I want all of that. And so we've got Admiral Akbar back for Season 2. And in fact, because this crowd will get it, he's going to go head-to-head with Thrawn. So there you go. What's a Death Star compared to the blue guys? So let's go for it. So we're getting that. I don't usually give stuff away. Now, I have to pay for the show somehow. So I'm bringing these small kittens.
That's
which we've never
hilarious.
seen before. Their legs aren't strong enough to walk, so they roll around. These will be in Star Wars Shop next baby celebration, I hope, so I can start paying Disney back for how much the lovely production I've gotten. It's wonderful. But yeah, lost kittens. All the rage. They come in several colors. Yeah, get used to that. And I brought Merle back because he was evidently a big star and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Lost cats. Who knew? My dog knew because he didn't like Merle, but that was about it.
We love the mothballs.
The lost balls, yeah, the little lost balls. And you can see the drawing it started with. But yeah, the mortis guards, that's a thing. So, yeah, we'll see. That's what you watch season 2 when it comes out. You'll get a taste of it. You'll get a taste of a lot of things. It's a complicated thing. It was the weirdest day with George. He brought that stuff up. I don't know where he was going with that one. And then I had to figure it out. And it turned out to be pretty compelling episodes. Most stuff George told us is. So yeah, it's a big mystery, and like the son's there, the father's there, most of the daughter's there. So yeah, we'll figure that out. It was a good story. I've read it, John's read it, Rosario's read it. Rosario's read some of it. I keep rewriting it, but we'll see. We'll get into it.
Can't wait to see it. Well,
yeah, good.
You mentioned Akbar with Thrawn, face to face. So Thrawn, at season 1.
Thrawn is the right villain for this time period for the simple reason of heir to the Empire. The book by Timothy Zahn, and those of us that are old enough to have grown up with that, he is the iconic villain. And the genius of that was that Thrawn's a villain that doesn't have the Force, but holds his own against everybody because of his, Moriarty-like intellect. He's very smart, very tactical, and he's a warrior. He's a great leader of the military, something that we didn't really get to experience a lot in the Star Wars movies. There's one great victory when they take the rebel base on Hoth, Imperial victory, and so you love those Walker guys. They were successful, but everybody else kind of a little hit and miss, despite being very precise, evidently. But Thrawn, you think, is something else, and Lars plays him brilliantly. Loved him when we worked with the animation, and I was amazed frankly, I was amazed because I had never worked with Lars in studio on Rebels. He was always remote.
Right.
And so I had no idea how tall he was. And I was like, this is perfect. Because I wanted a very tall, towering Thrawn because he actually looks imposing even next to Valen, who is large. So yeah, he's just the right villain for this era of the Empire trying to reform, trying to maintain its integrity and control, and with a cold calculation. That's Lars.
Yeah, so John, every good story has a good villain, from your perspective. Every good story has a good villain, so what's your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, what's great is that this villain has been established already, as Dave pointed out. And you have to write the villain smart. Always a smart villain is always a scary villain. The ones who are just off their rocker, they're fun to watch them chew up the scenery, but at the end of the day, they're not imposing. And a strong villain makes for strong heroes. And so you always have to judge. Usually if you look when you're filmmakers, you look at, if the villain's good, the rest of it's gonna be good. If the villain's wrong, it doesn't matter how good you depict your heroes. And so what's been established in multiple media here is that this guy is one step ahead and doesn't have, as Dave points out, he doesn't have special abilities or anything. He just has his calculations and his strategy. And that puts a lot of pressure on the performer, but also the writer, to make sure that you live up to the cleverness of that character. But if you pull it all together, then the whole thing becomes a puzzle. And so you're watching what's happening in Star Wars, and you're watching all the spaceships and all the explosions and the big production value, which is a big part of the stories that I've read that are coming up for the season. But also, you want to have it be something where the audience is rewarded for leaning in, paying attention, and trying to figure out where it's going. And a villain like Thrawn really affords that. Cool. Yeah.
So, Rosario, what makes you most excited for season 2? It starts next week, right?
Next week. Yeah, no, I'm just so excited to be with this cast again. You know, it's so interesting as I'm looking at Lars and remembering the last celebration and the reception that he got that literally choked him up and brought tears to his eyes. You know, he's just so incredible and so imposing. It's the same thing with Ivana, like they just seem so intense and dark, but they're like the nicest, kindest, most beautiful, like almost ephemeral people. Like it's magical every single day on set. We're smiling, we're laughing, like all our behind the scenes pictures, it doesn't matter, the good guys, the bad guys, the evil, whatever, everyone is just so happy to be there, and the energy is just so powerful, and it's a lot of work. It's all very intense. There's a lot of bruises, there's a lot of, you know, like it is very physical, and it's really wonderful to be with people who are just so incredibly professional, so remarkably talented, but just so truly kind. I mean, it starts with you, John and Dave, like it just carries over. You know, I've known Hayden since we were teenagers, and the fact that we get to play in this, there's something so magical when we show up on set every day, and we have this resonance in history that is physical, like is real for us. And I think that's my favorite thing about Star Wars in general, is how real you all make it. You know, this show doesn't exist without you. You make it very real, way beyond fantasy. You live it and breathe it in the way that we show up every single day to do it. And it's just such a pleasure, and it's so rewarding, and it's such a gift. So I'm excited to bring on Rory. I worked with him 20 years ago on a movie. He's a really, really lovely human being, and he does, and you said that, it's in the eyes. You know, Ray had this indomitable spirit, just so intense and powerful, and so kind. Just such a laugh, such a joy to be around. And Rory has that really incredible balance as well of this intensity and fierceness and just love and passion. And so, you know, just doing the training, because we've been in training for the past few months, and it's been really, really fun. And now we get to really get into it, and we're all beyond excited because we haven't read all of the episodes, and yes, he does keep rewriting them. But oh my God, is it so
As we
good.
speak.
It's so good. So I'm very excited for what this season brings, because we've laid so much groundwork in the previous season that now we get to, it feels like we just get to play, which is going to be amazing.
And Hayden, since he's on stage, can I ask about, you know, coming soon?
Ask away. I'm curious to see what he's gonna say.
What can you tell?
There's not much that I can share, but Anakin will be back for season 2.
Yeah.
But you saw there were so many tapes, like she's got so many recordings at the least. And his voice goes like something, right? No, please, no, yes. I pleaded.
All right. So thank you so much, Dave, John, Rosario, and Hayden. Thank you so much. And you have one more thing?
Yeah, right at that point, I think, where we have one more thing.
Whoa.
So, this is a tricky one, because I really
haven't filmed anything yet.
I haven't filmed anything. I haven't filmed anything, not a single thing. No cameras rolled, John. But I can't give these people nothing. And so, I thought back to when I was a kid, and I'd seen A New Hope. And then all of a sudden, there was a trailer for something called Empire Strikes Back. And they hadn't filmed anything yet. And so I'm like, oh, George, how did you know? How did you figure that out? And I said, there is a way to give them something. So I give you this very retro look. Don't blink, because it's going to be fast. If you're 40 like me, this is going to sing to you. I'm 50, John. Let's not talk about that. Anyway, please enjoy this. It's the best I could do, and take this look at season 2. There is a lot here, and you won't understand any of it. Let's go.
All right, before we go, this is a special first look at Ahsoka Season 2 for Dave.
Uh-oh.
Just for you here in the room.